charge of wetland protected areas and the Ministry of Environment, we need to have a closer collaboration. So we cannot do anything more than just stating that here there is a lack of collaboration, which can be a major pitfall for implementing sound policies regarding wetland protection. But this is only what the authority can do. But at least it is this to make it clear that generally in the Mediterranean, this transsectoral collaboration is not enough, and we can have in-depth analysis country by country to say, okay, here it works here well, here between these two organizations or two institutions we have to work together. It doesn't work enough and it should be fostered. We can do this kind of assessment and proposal, but not more. Yes.
My name is Marco Falcetta. I'm a technical consultant to the Italian Development Cooperation. I would go to the first of your question because it's really the key point, how to optimize the impact on decision makers and policies. This, as a conservation community, is our goal and at the same time our problem, because it's it's not easy to influence decision maker and policies. And in the last 15 years, implementing programs and projects around the world, we have been developing an idea that I will try to explain. The issue is that when we speak about conservation, I would say we are in a defensive way. So all what we do is to say what is damaging the environment, and sometimes we say the environment is providing ecosystem services and so on. But this does not create a direct link to the decision that other institutions, agriculture, industry, urban planning, whatever, make that do affect the environment. The only, let's say, institution that would define our work useful would be the Ministry of Environment or Environmental Authority or whatever other institution. Instead, we should focus more our activities, our target on other line ministries that providing them not limitation to what they can do, but opportunities, helping them to build their policy, and since this is done with our support, we can mainstream, let's say, intrinsically the environmental consideration. If, for example, the conceptual framework for the indicator, you use the DPSIR framework, which is very good, but it's very good for conservation, for environmental people, because driver on the environment is a problem, it's not an opportunity. So I don't list all of them, but everything is defensive. We in our project have been using this framework until 2007. Then we tried to develop a new framework to provide, to classify and organize indicators according to themes and issues that can be of interest for other institutions that for the development of their policy of other institutions that do affect the environment. And we are getting good results, but I tell you that the first, because when we implement a project before, let's say the other ministries they were not happy. So when you invite stakeholders in workshop, they say, okay, we come because we have to come, but they were not interested so much. While, of course, environmental institutions, they were interested. When we change and we try to develop more, we face a lot of resistance from environmental people because they have to change their way of thinking, which is not an easy task, of course. Then, step by step, we improve. So, I would suggest, put on the table, because this is a workshop to discuss, you put question. So, our contribution would be that of thinking of conceptual framework, policy advice to involve, but other institutions, but not just calling them to show or to illustrate, to discuss what they shouldn't do, but what they should do. If we, also in this Congress, you say environment, ecosystem services are benefits and opportunities, but always in general terms and not having a specific diagram or specific issue. Look, don't forget the environment. You want to gain more money from fishing? Okay, you have to do these environmental policies. And this is, let's say, a positive approach to the environment and not a negative approach, negative and defensive. You cannot do this, you cannot do that.
Yeah, thank you very much for your intervention. I think you have put the finger on the key point. And for example, we leave this, how to say, we are overstretched between these two positions, or we are, because we are an environmental organization, so we are effectively defensive. And when we speak to productive sector developers, we are felt as you said, putting limitation, restriction to everything. We have hired as the leader of this observatory someone who comes from the development sector, who has spent 25 years draining wetlands everywhere, developing. And for us, it's very interesting, but also very challenging, because we have to mix these two visions. We are an environmental organization, and our mission is to conserve wetlands, but not only conserve, but put it under a shelter, but to ensure that they are used sustainably. And within the team, and Thomas can witness that, we are stretched between two directions. What is our mission, and how can we talk to development sectors? And you were right, we have used the DPSIR our framework, which is used by conservationists. Developers don't use at all this kind of approach. So we have tried to make a mix, so we have used this as a logical framework for our observatory, but we have interpreted the results through the livelihood approach used by developers. And so it's perhaps a wrong mix, I don't know. We have, we are trying things, but at least we are aware that, yes, if we use this defensive or restrictive approach, we will have no chance to have an impact on developers. So, but still, we need to have a strong environmental message. We can't probably say, okay, right, let's develop this, and if you can just, not degrade too much that, it would be good. So, how to find the right language to put the right message? Really, for us, we are. If you have experience in these fields, and what would you think success? We are very much interested in exchanging, because we are, in the middle of the way. We have to not know exactly where, if you have to really get and structure our activity around this DPSIR approach, or if we have to go more towards the livelihood approach, and how can we find the right balance between this? And this is a key question for us, yes.
C'est le même point. Ok, je peux le faire.
Pardon, je vais parler en français pour être plus précis sur pour l'ajout de nouvelles en Ramsar. D'accord. Il y a bien sûr des procédures. Je veux revenir juste un travail on est sur le parc d'Al-Husima. Le parc d'Al-Husima, que M. Pierre, il a des caves marines qui pourraient être sujets à être des zones Ramsar. C'est une idée qu'on pourrait développer dans le futur, surtout que les études ont montré que c'est un biotope qui serait intéressant pour abriter le traitement. Donc il y a des études qui ont été déjà faites dans ce sens. Donc c'est un travail qui pourrait. Mais je reviens sur un autre aspect, donc qui est, c'est-à-dire nous en tant qu'ONG, bien sûr on essaie de contribuer à créer des conditions, parce qu'on est conscient que ces sujets-là, des écosystèmes, c'est un puzzle à plusieurs dimensions et que chacun doit connaître son rôle pour qu'il n'y ait pas des sensibilités ou des chevauchements entre les rôles. Et ça, donc, notre approche, c'est de travailler avec la population locale, en général, nous travaillons avec les pêcheurs artisans. Et donc, nous croyons que pour protéger, bien sûr, l'environnement, on ne peut pas parler à la nature, il faut justement s'organiser entre humains sur une vision et après un plan d'action. Et donc, c'est cette vision du bas vers le haut. Cependant, comme on vient de mettre ces 3 points-là, donc faute de vrais futurs de durabilité des actions, que ce soit au plan financier ou au plan de vision, et ça montre que quand même la chose est assez complexe et que même si on prépare le terrain, si on attend trop longtemps, on crée des attentes et que tout le travail de sensibilisation qu'on fait de bas, parce que s'il y a un vecteur qui passe vers le haut, il faut qu'il y ait un appui aussi de l'administration, comme vient de dire M. Olivier. Sur le plan national et visionnel, il y a beaucoup de travaux, il y a beaucoup de choses, mais il y a une urgence parce que l'impact sur la ressource, il ne fait qu'augmenter.
Perhaps just translate to this. Yes. Yeah. Actually, it was more or less the same reaction as our Tunisian colleague. It was about a lack of reaction from the institution in Morocco this time. So there is an NGO trying to work to make an area protected. This is a marine area. It could be around Sarsay because there is the Moxie population living there. And so yes, perhaps Mohamed, you can react on this question.
Yeah.
Question précédente.
Pour me payer.
Question la précédente.
Je voulais dire par rapport au propos de mon ami Nigani, qui est une ONG très active en matière de formation, de sensibilisation, et ils encadrent même les groupements, surtout les pêcheurs, pour s'inscrire dans une démarche de gestion durable de la ressource. C'est ça le point fort de leur action. Et ce qu'il a évoqué, c'est le parc national d'El Hoceima, qui est le premier parc côtier du Maroc, notre parc marin, qui a une partie marine ou maritime. Et il a parlé de l'aspect de la possibilité, si peut-être, de classement de caves, tu appelais ça? Des caves marines, c'est parce que le parc national d'Al Hoceima, il a une côte, disons, très intéressante parce qu'il comprend beaucoup de falaises. Il y a de l'habitat pour le phoque moine, donc c'est des caves. Il parlait de la possibilité de classer ces caves site Ramsar, c'est ça ton idée. Ok, parce qu'il y a le phoque, parce qu'il y a possibilité de réintroduire le phoque moine. Mais en tout cas, c'est un aspect que nous étudions dans le cadre de l'aménagement et la gestion de la partie marine de ce parc. Et c'est, à mon avis, comme technicien, c'est loin d'être considéré dans le contexte Ramsar. Parce que c'est pas vraiment... C'est une zone humide, parce qu'on est à moins de 6 mètres, etc. Et tout ça. Mais on peut en parler plus tard sans aucun problème. Mais permettez-moi de réagir, je vais essayer en anglais. The point of view of our Italian friend is very interesting in my opinion. It's about the first question or first issue. I think, personally, I think that the observatory cannot be, cannot be. cannot be no, the impact of on Americans' decision cannot be a mission of the observatory. You see, the observatory is, in my opinion, is a platform for science and policy. But really, on the intellectual level, we give information as observatory. We give information. We give science. We give data. Yeah. But we don't have any way to impact on makers' decision, because we are not an institution. We are not. We don't have authority, and we don't have method. We don't have approach to impact these people. I think we have to look for a way. We have to look for approach or démarche to assurer le. Je vais continuer en anglais, en français, je m'excuse, c'est pas réussi, hein? Non. Mais je m'excuse. L'idée de notre ami italien est très intéressante, parce que ça a stimulé chez moi une réflexion concernant ce premier point, c'est que l'observatoire ne peut jamais avoir comme mission d'impacter les décideurs. On est deux catégories, si je peux dire, d'acteurs. On est les développeurs, les décideurs, et on est les scientifiques, comment on appelait tout à l'heure, les aménageurs, les gestionnaires. Donc l'observatoire, il génère de l'information technique qui va nous servir pour faire des stratégies, donc, de police, qui va nous servir de développer des éléments de défense et d'arguments, etc. Mais impacter, aller jusqu'à influencer, si je peux dire, la prise de décision, ça, ce n'est plus le rôle de l'observatoire. Parce qu'il y a une coupure, à mon avis. Il faut que l'on travaille un système ou quelque chose à mettre en place pour assurer ce lien entre ce que produit l'observatoire comme information, comme données, et les traduire en messages et les faire passer dans l'espoir d'influencer la prise de décision. Et ça, c'est un autre acteur, ce n'est pas l'observatoire, à mon avis. C'est du moins impossible, à mon avis, dans le contexte des pays comme le Maroc. Oui. C'est vraiment une idée que je jette comme ça, c'est à la réflexion. Il y a déjà monsieur qui voudrait prendre la parole.
Thank you, Mohamed. Just to translate in a nutshell what Mohamed really is saying, according to him, the mission of the observatory should not be to go until the impact. It should be only devoted at producing analyzed data, and then it should be the role of another body. Yes. But my question to Mohamed is, who can do this? The role of another body to transfer or to get this information, to transfer into messages able to reach decision makers and have an impact, a final impact. My own reaction to that is the observatory, the existence of the observatory has no sense if we are not able to go to the impact. Now, for sure, the observatory has strong limitation to go to the impact, and it's not the observatory itself that can ensure the impact. We have to ensure that decision makers and so different actors get and find interesting and useful the information in our reports and use them to define and implement their policies. So, but the key question is how to do this link between the information we can provide, the analysis, scientific analysis we can do, and who can be this intermediate body that to ensure that this data, this information is really used for decision making and policy development. And really, I think
I have a personal idea, but after our friend.
Okay.
I try in English, but I share the same problem with Mohamed.
You understand
with my English. Okay, I came from the Ministry of French Ministry of Ecology, and we have for 2 years after our national strategy on biodiversity, we have such a debate on a national observatory on biodiversity. It's only in one country, so it seems to be simple, but in reality not. And we after this long discussion, we think that the National Observatory on Biodiversity should be like a thermometer. Everybody should accept the result, everybody should agree the results, the method to gather the data, to have the analysis. And after that, of course, the most important is to go to the action. If you have a thermometer, just to know if you have a fever or not, and after you have the doctor.
Yes.
Here, on biodiversity, the doctor are decision makers, policy makers, and so on. And we built all the indicators with NGO